going to shift gears this morning. We're dropping into 5th. We've got to move, so I'm going to get going, okay? We've got the story of Jacob, what we would call the story of Jacob. We'll see what God is going to call it here in a minute. We're going to do it just a bit differently. We're going to try to cover a bunch of chapters, so I'm going to read parts of it and give some thoughts. And then we'll do our normal thing a bit later as we get further into the story, okay? So we're going to start in Genesis 25, verse 19. Okay, so if y'all want to turn there. And it starts like this. This is the account of Abraham's son Isaac. I think the newer version of the NIV has Isaac's family line. And Abraham became the father of Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean from Paddan Aram, and sister of Laban, the Aramean. And Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. I think it would be cool if we kept a count as we're going through this story. How many barren women we have. So how many would this be? 3? I got 2. Who's the other?
2. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so we got Sarah. And now we have next in line, Rebekah is going to be barren. So 2. It's our second barren woman. But Isaac prays to the Lord on behalf of her. The Lord answered this prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. And the babies jostled each other within her. And she said, "Why is this happening to me?" Some good foreshadowing here. They're already wrestling when they're inside of her. So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. And this is so interesting that this is here, because if this isn't here, we have a really interesting story about what's going to happen between these 2. I mean, this is an incredible story of the dynamics of what's going to happen, and when Jacob comes back, what's going to happen. But it tells us the answer right here. It tells us the answer, and it's also, we have one person is in possession of this prophecy. Who do we know knows this fact? Rebekah. That's a very interesting question. Does she tell anyone else about this? Because you get a very different story if Isaac knows this fact. If you read this knowing that Isaac knows this, you get a very different story than if he doesn't. And if Esau knows, and if Jacob knows, you get a very different story. And as I look at it, I'm thinking well, that's something that you tell your husband, right? You're like, "Hey, hon, good sleep last night. The kids were fighting, and so I was talking to God, and maybe that's an important thing you'd want to tell your husband. Maybe that's something you keep to yourself in this society where the rule is that the older is going to be the head, and the younger is going to serve him. I don't know. And the story is not going to tell us. But it has put this here because it's telling a different kind of story. It's not a story about what is going to happen. It's a story about what God is doing. And the question I want to focus on, there's so much we can focus on. The question I want to focus on is why? Why does God say that the older is going to serve the younger? And we opened up with Abraham saying, we got this great story about how he marries a barren woman. It comes right after the Tower of Babel. These people are worried about their name, building towers for themselves. I don't want our name to disappear from the face of the earth. And Abraham doesn't care about his name. And God chooses Abraham to lead this nation. Why does he choose Jacob? Starts off with a story. We all know this. Esau is out hunting. He's the hairy man. He's the man's man. He's out hunting. Jacob stays home among the tents. He's a mama's boy. He's cooking. Esau's famished. Esau says, I need some of that stew. Jacob says, sell me your birthright. Esau says, well, good. What my birthright do me? If I'm dead, sure, you got the birthright. And it ends this story. We think of the story as in some sneaky Jacob stole the birthright. The Bible ends the story with, but Esau despised his birthright. And we got to talk for just a minute. We got to move. We got to talk for a minute. What is this birthright? What does it mean? We all think, well, they get the double inheritance, right? And just to explain how it works, I think this is how it works on a boat. If you're fishing, the captain gets a double share. If you got 5 people on the boat, you split it up 6 ways. Captain gets 2 shares. Everyone else gets 1 share. You're looking at like you lived a long time around where there are a lot of boats. Is that how it works? Anyway, I think that's kind of how it, but the first mate gets like some more or something too. But anyway, in this society, this is how you do it. Take however many sons you add 1, and then the oldest son gets 2 shares. Everyone else gets 1 share. And there's only 2 kids. It's a big difference. It's 2/3 and 1/3. But that's not it. He becomes the leader of the house.
The responsible one.
The responsible one. And not just that he is going to take over this house. And it's a big house. Like Abraham took, I think, 318 guys when he raised an army. This is a huge household. It's a huge responsibility. And so, in a way, you could think like, man, he gets 2/3 of the stuff, but he has to take care of 1,000 people. Jacob would get 1/3 of the stuff just to go off and do what he wants. It seems like a pretty good deal. And it's not just that. It's not just that you have to take care of the household. It is your job to continue your father's mission. You don't just get to decide where you're going to take this house and what it's going to do. You have got to continue your father's legacy. If your father is about making sushi, you are going to make sushi. That's what you're going to do with your life. If you're the Behor. Okay? Now, raises a question. What is Abraham's household about? What does this mean if you're going to be the Behor? If you're going to be the Av in the Beit Av, house of the father? What is Abraham's household?
He's a herdsman, really.
He is a herdsman. Economically, he is a herdsman. That's what he does. Okay? Now, apart from that, like, what is his mission? What does he do, it seems like? He's planted a flag in something, in some principle. What has he planted his flag in?
God's ways.
In God's ways, in trusting God. We got a story of faith. But he's planted his flag in hospitality. Here's an entire region of the world whose hospitality is legendary because of Abraham. They have continued in his ways of hospitality to this day. And so, if you are going to be the leader of this household, it means that you're going to be a herdsman, and that you're going to be hospitable, and you're going to be faithful to God. Now, what do we learn about Esau? What does he do? What kind of man is Esau? He's a hunter. Is a hunter a herdsman? No. These are 2 different things. Okay? And so we're already getting the story like Esau is like, I don't know about being the leader of this household. I'm not like my grandpa, Abraham. And we would presume that Isaac is a herdsman too. Not like my dad. Not like my grandpa. I'd rather be out hunting than I would caring for sheep and cattle and goats and what all we got. All right, so we got our next famous story. Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see. And tells Esau, go and make me that tasty food. I got a taste for that game that you kill, the way you make it. Sends him off. Rebecca's like, quick, Jack, go. Here's our chance. Go get 2 goats. Go out to the field. It's like 2 tender goats. Bring them back. I'll prepare them the way they're supposed to go. Jacob's like, Mom, he's gonna know. She's like, no, just trust me. He's like, I'm gonna get cursed instead of blessed. Let the curse be on me. So she cooks up the goats. She puts the goat skins on his hands. Sends them in there. Isaac's like, immediately. That was fast. And like, I don't know about y'all, but I kind of imagine that Jacob is like me. He probably sings tenor when this quartet sings. I just imagine that Esau sings bass when this quartet sings. Okay? And he's like, oh, the Lord made my hunt successful. and Isaac's like, that's Isaac, or that's Jacob's voice. What? And so he's immediately suspicious. Then he comes close and he feels his hands. Right? Now, I don't know about you all, but I've got a problem with this. A goat skin on his hands? And he's already suspicious? And he's like, oh yeah, it's Esau. Yeah, that's right. I felt it, you know. Couldn't tell the difference between a goat skin and a man's hand? I don't know about. The man is blind. He's blind in more ways than one. So you know how this goes. Jacob gets the blessing from Isaac, and the blessing is that the older is going to serve you. Everyone's going to serve you, but specifically, your other brother is going to serve you. Esau comes in. Both of them, both Esau and Isaac are like, no. And Esau's like, surely you got a blessing for me. He's like, I already gave it away. But come on, bless me with something. Okay, sure. Man, and it's not much of a blessing. Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword and you will serve your brother. What kind of blessing is that? And when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck. What does Esau do after this? I'm going to kill him. He's a dead man. Now, I tell you, in my mind, the story was that Esau's going to kill him. Jacob's got to flee. I was reading this again. So what happens? Someone hears Esau. That someone goes and they tell Rebekah. Rebekah goes and she tells Isaac, get your son. Tell him not to get a wife from here, but to go back to my people and get a wife from there. So there's some time that's happened here. He doesn't run off immediately after this. And then Isaac sends him off to get a wife. And then here's another problem I have. What does he leave with when he goes to get a wife? It's going to tell us much later in the story. It's going to hint at it here, but it's going to tell us much later in the story. Jacob says, when I crossed this river the first time, the only thing I had was my staff. In our next story, he's going to lay his head down on a rock. He's got nothing. Why does he have nothing? This is not the first time we've sent somebody off to get a wife from Paddan Aram. What did he leave with? What did Eleazar have with him? 10 camels loaded with stuff to purchase a wife. And Isaac sends off Jacob with nothing? Nothing. Ishmael got like a skin of water and something. Jacob's got a staff. I said this other question. What's wrong with that? Whose responsibility is it to get him a wife? How many wives does Isaac get in this story? 0. He didn't get a wife. For Esau? Esau goes and gets 2 wives from Canaan. And when he sees, like, oh, Dad doesn't like these. Mom doesn't like these Canaanite women either. I guess I'll go get one from Ishmael. He's not doing his job here. Sends his son off, because his wife asked him, sends him with nothing whatsoever. All right, so Jacob goes on his way. he stops in this place. The picture is like he's wandering through the desert. It becomes night, and he's like, I gotta stop. I can't see. I'm gonna trip and fall. Lays down, puts his head on a rock. At the end of this, he's gonna make this deal with God. And he's gonna be like, God, if I just don't starve to death and don't freeze to death, that's what he's asking for, essentially. He's got nothing. Stumbling through the desert, lays down, has this dream. Angels going up and coming down the ladder. God gives him this promise. He's going to repeat the promise, part of the promise to Abraham. You're going to be a blessing to all the people around you. Amazing thing that's just happened here. And Jacob wakes up. What does he say? He's like, I didn't know God was here. He's in the middle of the desert. I'm told that what it says here about this is that he's in of nowhere's nowhere. The middle of nowhere. He lays down. Just been wandering through the desert. And he gets up and he says, God is here. He names the place Bethel, house of God. God must be here. This must be God's house where he lives. I think he's misunderstood. I don't think God is there. I think God is everywhere. Because he's not the first person that said this. Abraham went to the Negev. Met up with Abimelech. Whole thing happens, and he says, I didn't know there was any fear of God here. His family's learning about where God is. God is everywhere. And still, like, God makes this promise to him in the dream. What does Jacob do? He's like, let's make a deal. Completely unnecessary, by the way. God's already told you he's going to take care of you. Why are you making a deal with God? Anyway, he's not very good at it. He's, like I said, he's like, God, if I don't starve to death and I don't freeze to death, okay, then I will serve you. God's already said he's going to take care of you. Then he goes to Paddan Aram. He shows up. I'm struck by this thing. The first thing he does, he gets there within 5 minutes. He looks around. He's like, the sheep are here. There's the well. It's the middle of the day. Guys, what are you doing? You're doing this all wrong. Like, you water the sheep and you get them back out to the pasture. They got to eat. Like, who is in charge here? What's going on? Now, what does it mean to be Isaac's Behor? Abraham's Behor? What is Abraham? He's a herdsman. What is this dude? We're going to find out. Here, like this story, like he's a herdsman. He is the herdsman. Okay? Like he knows what he's doing. He's going to go into this country and just flocks are going to start multiplying because of this guy. Partly because God is with him. Partly because it seems like he's like, he knows exactly what to do. And nobody else here apparently does. Meets Rachel. He's going to move this heavy stone by himself. He's going to start getting things in order here. He's going to become very prosperous. But he's going to meet someone who's of the same kindred spirit of him, Laban. And they're going to have, Marty Solomon calls it the deceive-off. They are going to be battling each other this whole time. He says that Laban's going to change his wages 10 times. He's going to get tricked first because he's like, I want this girl. Work 7 years. Why's he got to work 7 years? Because he has nothing to give for her. Because his father gave him nothing when he sent him off. Gets tricked. Gets the other girl. Has to work 7 years. Has to work 6 more years to get something to take back. Laban keeps cheating him. Rachel steals her father's gods. It's raining in the back. Laban chases him. Now I have this whole thing about where are the gods. Jacob says, if you find them near, the person who has them is dead. If they don't find them, excuse me. They have this whole thing where they make a covenant with each other. They can't agree on what this covenant is going to be about. Finally, Jacob is able to break free and he's going home. But he has a problem. What was the situation when he left? Esau was going to kill him. Now he's going back. And what we find is he sends some messengers ahead. He says, hey, I'm coming back. I'm excited to meet you. They bring back word. Esau is coming. with 400 men with him. Oh no. Jacob, excuse me, starts scheming. We start splitting things up. I know what to do about this, okay? I'll put half of my flocks over here and half of my flocks over here. If he attacks one of them, I'll run. And I'll split up my family. Leah's servant, Rachel's servant, and Leah, and then Rachel and her kids, and I'm in the back, watching everything. I'm ready to go if he's going to attack. And then pause. This is the climax of the story. What's going to happen here? And, all right, let me find where we are. This is where we start reading. In Genesis 32:22. Anyone want to read this one? All right. Genesis 32:22. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. And after he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone. He's on the other side of this river. Okay? Everything else has made it across. He's still on the other side. And a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched. And as he wrestled with the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." And the sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. All right, so here's our question. What do you see in this? What problems do you have with this? What questions do you have with this wrestling match?
How can you wrestle with God and not lose?
That is some kind of question, considering this story, isn't it? Good one. Yeah, what else do you all have?
What in the world started the wrestling match in the first place? Where did this guy, I mean, just all of a sudden he's wrestling some guy.
All of a sudden he's wrestling some guy. Exactly, like what? This dude just shows up out of nowhere. And then look at how they're interacting, right? Like, he's like, I will not let you go unless you bless me. This dude shows up out of nowhere. They start fighting. And he's like, "Yeah, let me go. I'm not going to let you go. You got to bless me." Why do you want this guy's blessing? Shows up out of the middle of nowhere. And why? And the guy gives him a different name? The guy shows up out of nowhere. They're fighting each other. He's like, "What's your name?" "It's Jacob." "Oh, not anymore. We're going to call you Israel." What? How does he get to rename him? All right, I'm taking some of the good ones. What do y'all got?
Is that the house of God, the name of the place, right?
Well, it seems like it's a different place. He calls it Peniel. Yeah, the face of God, which is different from the house of God. And there's certainly a symmetry. Like he stops at the house, meets God in a dream, house of God. He goes, he comes back, he meets God again. But it seems like it's a different place because he's just on the other side of the river, the Jabbok. And he's getting ready to cross.
Well, then another question is how come he couldn't meet this guy, or the guy couldn't meet him, and all he had to do was just touch his hip?
Exactly. What? Like you could just, my understanding is the word there is, it's not like he punched him, it's like he touched him. And then like suddenly it's out of socket. So this guy it's God. How do you wrestle with God and not lose? How do you wrestle with this guy that can just touch you and throw things out of socket? And
What's the significance of daybreak? The man says, "Let me go," because it's daybreak.
Yeah, so, something they said in Baymont about this, right? That it's like a ghost story. Now, I don't like the term ghost story. It's not like a ghost story, but it's like this archetypal story. Because he's at a river. He needs to cross a river. This mysterious man comes at night, not letting him cross the river, right? And then it's got to be over by daybreak. By daybreak, this guy's got to be out of here. Like, there's so many fairy tales, stories that follow that archetype, right? This is maybe the first. I don't know. Maybe there are other ones before this, but like maybe this is the first story that's like this, and everyone told one like it. But it's weird. Like, what's the significance of daybreak? Why has he got to be out of here at daybreak? And I'm also told that when Jacob asked him his name, and it's rendered here, why do you ask my name? My understanding is this is more like, you can't ask my name. How dare you ask my name? Which is going to be a theme when people are talking to angels. They might say something that's, my name's beyond understanding. Why would you ask me? You couldn't understand my name. That's certainly a theme about the name. But I don't know about daybreak.
I was going to say, it's not explained to us, but would Jacob get a better look at the guy during the day? And that's a problem. He might drop dead.
Right.
Got a closer look at God.
Oh, it's very interesting. Yeah, maybe it's a moonless night. That would make it even better. It's a new moon, and you can woo, and he can't even see the guy at all, and he's got to get out of there at daybreak. I mean, I think that makes sense. Like,
I mean, we see stories, and there's always light, because there's not a place that we walk where there's not a lamp or an outdoor light or something. But we're talking like there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's not like Walmart's around the corner. We have no lights anywhere. It's night, and it's got to be intimidating.
He's wrestling with this guy, and he can't see what's going on. Can't see.
Like wrestling in a coal mine, probably.
Yeah, there you go.
And then there's also the power of knowing a name.
Yeah, that shows up in a lot of stories.
Yes.
So
It even goes back to with Moses bringing the children. Just I am.
Right.
I am that I am. That's
Yeah.
what I am.
And that's the first time that he's known by that name at that point. He's been known by a different name up until then. So the power of knowing a name, the power of being able to change a name. Like, I can't say Ron, you gotta be Ron anymore. You're gonna be Joseph. Okay? I can't do that. I don't have that authority. So several things going on here. And like I said, it shows up like he's getting ready to meet Esau. We've got this great story happening of what's going to happen when he meets Esau, and then this thing just interrupts it in the middle. And then let me continue on in 33. So Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. So back to this thing. He's got an army. Jacob does not have an army. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the two maidservants. He put the maidservants and their children in front, his least favorite. Leah and her children next, his next least favorite. Rachel and Joseph in the rear, his favorite children. And he himself, his most favorite of all, is going to go in the back. He himself went on ahead and bowed down on the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. This verse, it should sound familiar because it's the verse that Jesus uses in the story of the prodigal son to tie these two stories together. And I was talking to John about my evolution of understanding Luke 15. I love Luke 15. I've always loved Luke 15. Before I understood really much about it, I loved Luke 15. And then a key point was learning that these two stories are linked. I didn't know that for a very long time. And then a while after that, I studied this story again, and I saw it from a different perspective of Jesus knowing this story And in being in this situation where the tax collectors and sinners were gathering around him, he's like, how am I going to convince these leaders that you need to try to save these people? And he comes up with this story. He's like, I need to tell them about Jacob and Esau. And then eventually I realized something. This might be like the fifth phase. Jesus honors certain people in the New Testament. He honors Martha. No, he honors Mary, sister of Martha. Right? They're gonna talk about this. He's gonna honor Mary, his mother. He's gonna honor John the Baptist. Among women, among those born of women, he says about John the Baptist. But in Jesus's, I think it's his best story, the prodigal son. And he says, I got to tell you what God's love is like. I want to tell you how much God loves us. It's like when Esau accepted Jacob back. That's how God loves us. He compares the love of God to Esau's love and forgiveness. Who has been honored more than that? And if you want to follow this rabbit hole down, how is Esau compared to God? Is it just this thing that Jesus did? Well, Esau says that he's going to destroy Israel, and then he forgives them. I was trying to go through my mind. Who else says that they're going to destroy Israel? I think there's got to be somebody. I couldn't come up with anybody that actually said they were going to destroy all of Israel, except for Esau. Certainly the next person that does it, pretty sure, is who? Who says they're going to destroy all of Israel? Start over. God says this to Moses. But then he forgives them. What does Jacob see? We haven't gotten to it yet. What does Jacob say when he sees Esau? Your face is like the face of God. This rabbit hole goes deep, which brings me back to this question. Why has God chosen Jacob? See, we can look at this story and be like, Esau, he marries these Hittite women, makes a bad choice there, but then he's like, Dad didn't like that. Daddy didn't go and pick a wife for him anyway. He had to go and do it himself. And then he realizes, I've made a mistake. And he goes to another side of the family, decide that he's going to align with it. He likes a bow. I assume he's hunting with bows. What does Ishmael do? He's the guy with the bow. Of course, that's the side of the family he's going to go to. Why? Why are we picking Jacob over Esau? I'm posing that question to you. Why? Why do you think God has picked Jacob over Esau?
Hunters or loners?
Hunters or loners? Maybe. I don't know. He's got 400 guys with him. He's the one with the posse. What? Chutzpah. Well, so I was going to go to, but Esau despised his birthright. Esau, he's like, I could lead this family, or I could just take a third of this stuff and go be a hunter. That kind of sounds good to me. But Jacob is the heel grabber. It's like, I want it. And when he shows up in this land and he's like, what are y'all doing? This is all wrong. It kind of reminds me of somebody else that showed up in the land. It's like, what are y'all doing? This is all wrong. This is how you need to be doing things. Isn't that exactly what Jesus does when he shows up in the land? What do you get? Water the sheep. What are you doing? Water the sheep and get them back to eating. Sounds a lot like what Jesus says about the poor and the oppressed when he shows up. But God has chosen to wrestle with Jacob. Rather than take Esau, which kind of seems like the laid back, like, yeah, he gets angry. Who wouldn't get angry if your brother just did this to you? But, after some time passes, you're my brother. It's all good. Come back. It's great. Let's be brothers again. I'm glad you're here. You get the laid back Esau, the man's man, the guy that Isaac chooses, or the one who's a little misled, but he wants it. And he's going to grasp for it. He's going to go for it. God has chosen to wrestle with Jacob rather than to try to put some fire in Esau.
You can do a lot more with somebody who is willing to do something than you can. We a lot of times we're like, well, they're doing it wrong. And a lot of times we should be like, they're doing something. Let's see if we can channel that.
Yeah.
You can, if somebody does something, it's a lot, that's what Jesus says, the two go, the one goes in the field and says, that
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
go and the other one says, I'll go, but doesn't. And the other one
Says,
doesn't.
I won't go,
I won't
but he
go.
does go. Which one does the Father?
That's right.
Yeah. So probably at this point, it probably turns around and God has redirected it and he's going to do what he's supposed to do. Right? At which point does he then get directed into doing the right thing, Jonas? That would be my question to you, because it ain't yet.
Not yet.
It is not yet.
Back to where the point where he wrestles, the part I love about that story is we can wrestle with God. We know to do the right thing or the wrong thing. And if we choose to do the wrong thing, we will be touched by it. We will be, a lot of times we will be scarred by our sin or by whatever. I think that's really prevalent in that Jacob wrestled and what for good or bad, whatever, he was still touched by it. It still changed him forever.
Probably the first thing I ever recognized about that story, other than like surface level, is that, he comes away from this a changed man. He walks differently after that. But he doesn't. But not only does he walk differently, all of Israel is going to behave differently because of this encounter with God. It makes a point to say that. It's not just him. And think of how out of place that is. Like, there's no Israel yet. He hasn't had any. We just have 11 kids at this point. But like, there's no Israel. But it makes a point to go out of its way and say that because of this, Israel changed the way they eat forever. We don't eat that because of what happened here. One thing that I'm struck by is like, who here is glad that God chooses to wrestle with the Jacobs? Either because of yourself or someone that you know. God didn't give up on them. He said, I'm going to work on that guy. I'm going to work on that guy until I can get them back. Praise God that he wrestles with his Jacobs and he has chosen to roll with them.
I'm struck a little bit about the lack of story of Isaac. There's, he's taken to the mountain, and then it's kind of like, okay, here's a chapter, and then it's gone.
Yeah. As you talk, he lives Abraham's life in reverse. But he ends up here in this place, and the Jews are going to come away with this idea that if you end up blind, if you aren't watching what's going on in your household, and there's strife in your household, and you're not taking care of it, you're going to end up blind. So it's going to happen in the book of Samuel to the priest there, and then they say that it happened to Lamech as well, because the same thing's going on with him. But like they're struck by this, he's blind. He's not taking care of business. He's got this strife in this house. And so another thing, we didn't really wrap up Abraham. So Abraham's 100 years old. He has his first child, and it's like, it's a miracle. Like something has happened there. And then it's like just casually, like he has another wife after this. He lives to 175. He has another wife. He's got 6 kids. Then it says, and his sons from his concubines, plural. But what does he do with all these kids? He sends them away. It's like, I got to get them away from Isaac. There's going to be trouble if they're here together. I can see. I've already seen there's going to be trouble. I've got to get them away. Sends them away with gifts. Isaac sends away the son with nothing.
Well, and Abraham, it's like Abraham learned from the first one when Ishmael sent him away with a skin of water,
Yeah.
a skin of water, and they never returned. He didn't know what happened.
Yeah, he doesn't know what happened to him. Also, Abraham's like, okay, I got to get a wife for my boy. He sends Eleazar with 10 camels loaded down. You go get a wife, you bring her back. But that sending 10 camels is like, you're kidding her. They're not saying no to this dowry. Okay? And the servant's like, what if she doesn't come? Should I take Isaac? No! No! Never. The boy stays here. He's not going back there. And then Isaac's just like, yeah, go. With nothing whatsoever. Just go. We'll see what happens. And he's not like, he isn't taking care of business at the end of his life. He's blind. All right. I only got 2 minutes. But I wanted to give you, because my family always says, you never gave me a chance to ask a question. Any questions? No? Okay, all right. You got a couple of minutes to get ready for church.